I was never really a runner. The way I see running is a gift, especially when you have stage 4 cancer. I'm Anne. I'm running the Boston Marathon, presented by Bank of America. I run for Dana-Farber Cancer Institute to give people like me a chance to thrive in life, even with cancer.
Join Bank of America in helping Anne's cause. Give if you can at BofA.com/supportAnne. What would you like the power to do? References to charitable organizations is not an endorsement by Bank of America Corporation. Copyright 2025.
Hey, this is Alex Landenburg from Kamelot, and you're listening to the Brutally Delicious podcast.
The Brutally Delicious Podcast. The Brutally Delicious Podcast. The Brutally Delicious Podcast. The Brutally Delicious Podcast.
Hey everybody, we are here as the Brutally Delicious podcast with Alex Landenburg from Kamelot, but more importantly for today, the founder. What's your title?
Yeah, that's a co-founder. Yeah.
Co-founder. I'm so sorry.
Co-founder of yeah. Yes.
That's awesome. That's blooper reel. Co-founder of the ROKK streaming app, ROKK. Hey, you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely, of course. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. That's awesome. So ROKK is basically, it's a streaming service, music streaming. So we're not completely reinventing the wheel here. It is very much like Spotify, Tidal, Apple Music, in a way that you can just stream music there. And actually, even though it's dedicated to rock and metal, you can stream actually any kind of music on the service. We'll get to that as well. But so why is there even a need for something like that? Well, because we wanted to make sure there is an alternative that's more fair in terms of payouts to musicians, and that's more dedicated and more loving in terms of the rock and metal community. Because right now, I think these things are lacking in streaming services. Technically, if you look at the product, Spotify is a good product. You can, it's fast, it's reliable, you can use it. It doesn't sound very good. That's maybe the downside, but the others sound pretty good. Like Apple Music sounds good, Deezer sounds good, right? Like we have to be like also fair here. But one thing that they have all in common is that they're not very detailed when it comes to let's say genres, to bands and everything. Like everything's either rock or metal. Mm-hmm. And that's also, we see that in the meta data that we get delivered, like Megadeth is labeled rock, for example. That's that we get. Yeah, it's insane, right? And so I mean, I don't know, but like Bruce Springsteen, that's rock or something to me, like not Megadeth, but whatever. So that's one thing, and then of course, famously, musicians basically don't make any money on Spotify. Like, I mean, that's a little oversimplified, but to put it in numbers, if you have like 1 million streams right now, for example, on Spotify, they will pay $3,000-$4,000, maybe $4,500 to the right holders, right?
Right.
So that's the label, and then whatever, depending on what kind of deal you have with your label, that's usually like a 50-50 split. Mm-hmm. Maybe actually a bit worse for the musicians nowadays, but let's say 50-50. So that's half of it, and then you split with your bandmates. So maybe that's like 4 or 5 guys in the band and girls. So I mean, in the end, that's pretty much it's like, not a whole lot anymore.
So, if I'm doing this math correctly, let's just say $4,000, half of it goes to the label, and then you split it among 5 people. That's $400 per member for a 5-piece band. That's for 1 million streams.
For 1 million streams, that's before tax, Oh.
Yeah. Well, geez.
Yeah. And it might be like 5,000 instead of 4,000. It's like fluctuating a little bit, but it's like never really like a whole lot more. And so the average is like 0.3 cents a stream, right? And so our aim is we want to at least try and pay a cent a stream.
Ooh.
So at least three times as much. And we can talk about how we want to do this, because it's a little counterintuitive, and it's actually a little difficult, like the whole topic, like the way, royalties come together. But we want to do that. And I mean, it's just to like this can be like the difference between like it's making a living, or it's like being able to at least sort of making a living from music, and having to have like 2 or 3 other jobs, which is the reality for most people right now. So this is what we want to try and do here. And maybe more importantly, we also have this thing that we call direct artist support. And so what that is, you can, as a user, you can assign a percentage of your subscription every month to an artist directly.
Mm-hmm.
And ideally this goes to the artist directly. Not depending on the label, some labels will take a cut from that. There's nothing we can do about it. That's all about the contracts that the artists have with their label. But actually, a lot of them are waiving that and say, okay, we think this is really cool, so it's going to go completely to the artist.
That is so cool. So, I mean, as a music fan, I definitely have, I'm not an artist. I don't get paid that way. But I have like my frustrations with some of the model. Spotify is the easy one to pick on. But I think their thing is like 70% of their revenue goes to rights holders. That's what I always read.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, and that's more or less the same what we do, which is again why this is actually what I mean by it's not really intuitive like the whole system. But yeah, they're doing the same. I'll try and explain it like real quick. Yeah. So what happens if you have a platform like Spotify? They're mainly catering to a very mainstream audience. So most of the users are just listening to like the top playlist of the moment,
right?
And that's the same almost anywhere in the world right now. Like the regional differences actually are very, very small by this point.
Well, yeah, but like Taylor Swift, Kendrick Lamar, like,
and it's basically very similar in Europe. And then you have these artists like I don't know Bad Bunny and stuff like that. I didn't even know the guy before, but it's I think some hip hop guy from Chile or something. And I mean, we're talking about billions of streams. It's insane. And also, what happens there is a lot of young kids are listening to that stuff. Also, they have a lot of time. They just have it running in the background. They're not actively listening, and those songs are getting shorter and shorter. So mainstream music is tailoring the music, to get shorter and shorter and to produce more streams, higher numbers. And this is. In rock and metal, you have the exact opposite. You have long songs. You have like 6 minutes, 7 minutes, right? So that's a disadvantage already. The audience is a little older. Like it's not. Fortunately, there are 15, 16-year-olds still nowadays, but the majority of the audience is older. They don't have as much time, and they're not listening to these playlists. And it's not, it's not being played at the gym and stuff like that. It's like there's so much contributing to this, and in the end, because of that, there's just so many more streams in the mainstream. The difference is staggering. There's numbers for that. Like 0.2% of artists get 90% of the streams.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the problem. Now you can say, well, but if they're getting more streams, then they're being paid more money. That's fine. That's logical. And sure, sounds like it makes sense. There's just one problem. The money goes into one bucket and it's being distributed from the same bucket across everyone. So what happens is if you are listening to something that's not mainstream, it can be anything, it can be rock, metal, it can be jazz, classical music. You are cross-financing these other streams because there's not enough money to pay for them. So even if you are not listening to Drake or you're not listening to Taylor Swift or Bad Bunny or whatever, some of your money will go there. That's just part of the system.
That was literally the frustration I was trying to figure out. Thank you for answering. Is like if I have my Spotify, what is it, like $12 a month? I forget. And let's just say I listen to one Megadeth track because you used them previously. They don't get 70% of that, right? They get yeah, that's always frustrated me. So you have the direct artist support. That is so cool.
So let's get back to that, but for a second, because this is the perfect example. Like you're listening to, let's say, for the entire month, you're not using it. You're just listening to one Megadeth track. Now, wouldn't it be great if they got these 70% now, right? Like this is the thing that would be amazing. This is called user-centric. So meaning your money goes to whatever you are listening to, and that would be extremely fair and would be the best option. But unfortunately, we're like the label partners, they're not quite ready to implement that yet. Like there's been talks about that, But so we're using the same system as the others, which is called pro rata. But, and this is the interesting part, because we are not catering to that mainstream audience. We simply are not going to have these people that are listening that are whatever, like 1,000 times to Drake in a month or to Taylor Swift or whatever, it can be anything else. They're just not there. We have an audience that is listening to other music, and even if they are occasionally listening to one of these other artists, it doesn't really matter. It's much more balanced, and that's actually what produces this 3 times more payout. And we can already see that, the first 10 days of the service now in Europe, we can actually see that our assumption, because of course it was an assumption until we are up and running, that it totally works. So, but the direct artist support is even more important for us, because that's the real game changer for artists. Because the thing is, to be completely honest, it's great that we are, let's say we are actually paying 3-4 times as much. This is fantastic. But the truth is, of course, also we don't have a whole lot of users in the beginning. So, it's not going to show dramatically in the beginning, right? But that direct artist support, that's something that people will see from the get-go. 100 people are supporting you. You will actually see that money in the next month. That's an extra difference. And even more so, what we want to do is, or what we are doing, if artists can get a voucher code, and if they share that code and people are signing up with that, they even get 10% of the money for the first year. And that's $1 a month, roughly, right? $12, and after tax, that's $9 something left, 10% of that. It's roughly $1 a month. So that's $12 in a year. And $12 in a year for a band, that's selling 3 to 4 records on a label.
Yeah.
This can be massive, and this is really what we're hoping what will happen. And so that's basically the idea behind it, right?
So that is the coolest thing. Obviously streaming services exist, but that is what I would call an innovation.
Thanks.
And is there any plan to thank you. Is that are there any plans to expand that? Can you have 3 featured artists? Which?
Yeah, we were talking about that. So to make it substantial enough, it just unfortunately doesn't make sense to divide it further, right? We want to rather have people pick somebody that they really want to support and make it a little more substantial, because then if you divide that money again, then it's not going to make too much of a difference again. And unfortunately, as of now, we cannot accept donations and just give them to the artist. We have to do that. This would be great, but it's in the contracts with the labels. Any money we make has to be part of the money that goes into these 70% payouts. Right. So it's not going to work. But we're positive that we can change that at some point too. That we'll find a workaround for that. So these 10% that direct artist support that we're paying right now, that's from our pocket. That's from our end. That's after the 70%. The remaining 30, from which we have to pay everything, the server costs,
right,
and everything. So that's in there. But we look at it as part of our marketing money in the end, because rather than spending it in stupid marketing, whatever, TV, radio, anything, putting a ton of money there, we want to make sure it goes to the artist, and then hopefully artists will see the value in that, and then just hopefully tell their fans to switch to our service. So basically, that's the idea.
Well, yeah, totally makes sense. So you just launched in. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no.
I was going to ask about when you launched in US, but you had something.
Yeah. So we just actually launched officially in Europe now. It took way longer than we expected, to be honest. It's a massive undertaking, the whole thing. And the truth is, and I hope we made that clear during the Indiegogo. The US and Canada launch really depends on how successful the European launch is, because the way it works is these territories, these markets, North America is a huge market, right?
Sure.
And the labels, basically what they do is they ask for advance payments. So that's also what they did in Europe and the UK. So adding another huge market would have been a huge upfront payment for us, number one. And then in the States especially, you always have a a little more legal cost as well, because you have it is what it is, and and that's that. So just launching in the States was just not in the cards right now. But hopefully, if things go well in Europe, of course we want to launch this. We love. I mean, I play in an American band. Breaks my heart not to launch it, and we get so much response, like from you, like enthusiastic response from the States. It's amazing. So of course we want to launch there, but I really, really at this point cannot say how long it will take. It can be 6 months. It can be a year. There's so much legal stuff, so much that comes into play.
So I don't know how extensive your knowledge of U.S. geography is, but I grew up on a place called Long Island where probably every third person is a lawyer. So that whole like the U.S. has legal challenges cracked me up. No, I hear you. But so I know you just said you can't say, but like, is a year like the longer end, or do you actually have no idea?
A year is probably the longer end, right? But yeah, to be honest, I really have no idea, because it really depends on how well Europe goes.
Sure.
Because it's like it's going to be really expensive at first. But of course you want to do it. And just the other day, I went to see Queensryche, and they were like super enthusiastic about it too. They loved it, but at the same time, I can tell obviously that they would love for us to be available everywhere, and I can totally get that. Totally makes sense.
And that's interesting to me because like Queensryche, I don't know what their like Spotify monthly count is. I assume it's probably about 1 million or something. I mean, Silent Lucidity has to have made them a lot of money, but they're the ones like, I don't mean to say that they wouldn't be, but I would have thought they were doing okay.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm sure they're doing okay, right? Like, but still, like it'd still probably be nice to be able to make a little more. And also, like the thing with that direct art support is that it's monthly steady income, which is something that musicians at least usually never have. Like you make money to go on a tour, or maybe if you're lucky and the release does really well at some point, you get some money, but you have like steady income, at least over a year, and then if they bring new users and new fans, that's gonna continue. Obviously, that's great for anyone, I guess, right? So that's a game changer.
So that was actually going to be like my next question. Actually, it's kind of two. Like, I guess on part one, you play drums for Kamelot, and before that, you were in Luca Turilli's Rhapsody, right? Yeah. If nothing else, like I would have like Kamelot, I think does pretty well as far as like symphonic or power metal goes. Something like 400,000 or 500,000 monthly, right?
It streams easily. Yeah.
Right. So, and you guys tour the U.S. like every year, it seems like. So, I would. Are you doing this out of the goodness of your heart? I would have thought like you weren't the ones that needed this.
Yeah. All right. I mean, I can make a living playing with Kamelot, right? But it's also like extremely, like you said, like we're touring a lot. It's an extremely well organized and well run band, also well run business, actually, right? And everything works really well. We have great fans, very reliably showing up to the shows, and that's wonderful. But it's a rare thing, to be honest, especially in this kind of music. And it's the exception, it's not the rule. That's for sure. And the thing is, the streaming app was like 4 years in the making, so it was a child of the pandemic, right? Like I remember, like my co-founder and I, it's a longtime friend from like teenage days, Peter. His name Peter Moog. Peter and I, we were in Sicily, actually in Italy, and we were discussing some things, and was basically the height of the pandemic, early 21. And I remember thinking, like clearly thinking, wow, like it was a mistake to kind of give up on making money on recorded music, right? Because clearly I was just like, at that point I realized that I didn't even expect anymore to make actual money on recorded music. But I was like, we're touring, and that's fine, because I love it. I love to play, and that's great. But it's suddenly we couldn't do that anymore, right? And also at that point, like maybe now it's like people tend to forget about it. But at that point, we weren't even sure, are we ever coming back like for real? Like there was like sort of this fear that, the worry that this might actually go on forever like that, right?
Yeah.
And it was the realization that it was a mistake to let things happen that way, and somebody needed to change something. So I wouldn't need it for myself, but still, like if something like this existed, I would have also made so much more money, like in comparison to what I made. And the thing is, as much as we love doing this, and this, I mean, obviously, you got to be crazy enough to do as a job, right? But we have to make a living of it, and even more so. What's a little bit like sports. Well, hopefully our career is long, but you never know how long, and you definitely can't do it forever, right? Or at least you want to get to the point where you don't have to do it, where you don't want to be the old guy on stage that has to do it, like, right? And actually can't quite do it anymore. That would be horrible. But that's the problem. Like, even if we can't make a living, we're not like making enough money to retire at some point. Say, yeah, we're retired. No, that's not going to work for almost nobody. So turning this thing around and finding ways to make more money is actually essential, even if you don't need it right now. But the future. And then for me, like I'm personally, I became father. Like I have two, I have twins, like two little boys. But they're 19 months old now, like toddlers.
Congrats.
Thanks. And that changes everything for you, like the way you look at things.
Oh, yeah.
Because personally, I can always get by. And like worst case, I can teach drums, right? And I love doing that. Like I know I wouldn't be like whatever happened, I could always do this, right? But still, it's just a matter of principle. It's a little bit of a shame that we kind of let it happen in a way that,
right.
Nobody made money anymore with music. Almost nobody,
So I do have to ask, do you have an opinion on the Lars Ulrich thing from like with Napster?
Hey, from back in yeah, absolutely, of course. So I think definitely, I think he did it for others. Like I don't think he was mainly concerned about themselves. They were really doing fine, always. Like not always, but at least since Injustice for All, and for sure since the Black Album. And I think he just realized that this was fundamentally wrong. It was unfortunate, I think, that they went after like some kids and people were suing fans or stuff like that's unfortunate. You should have, they should have gone just after the platforms and not after people. But I don't remember to what extent that happened. I really hope that nobody had to pay like horrible sums of money. I don't know, to be honest, anymore.
I thought there were.
But then there's also, it's not just the band, right? Like at that point, as soon as you sue that, then there's also the label involved and other people, and there might not be, like they might just be after the money. So I think they did it, like they, meaning Metallica, they had their reasons to do it, and I think it was the right thing to do it. But obviously you don't sue some poor kids that didn't realize they were doing something wrong, or to what extent,
It was so funny to me. Like, I'm not going to say I was never part of this, but for a long time, like at all defending Lars or Metallica, I just think Lars is the face, was seen as like, oh, what are you, like some corporate lawyer or something? Like they were implying that like you had no like balls, basically. Sorry. And looking at it now, I'm like, see, this is what you get. Like,
exactly. Yeah. I think he was just, he had the foresight. Like he was, not short-sighted. He saw where this is going, right? And so in that regard, it was the right thing. Just probably the way they did it. Like you could have done it differently, I guess. That's for sure. But Lars, it's easy to pick on them, but I think they had the reasons to do it. Also, they have they're a company. They must have something like 200 people that they employ, right?
Right.
That's responsibility, right? Also, and I think for a lot of them, that's actually what keeps them on the road.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's that's
I'm sure like Lars could retire today if he wanted to. Like probably I'm sure all four of them. But it keeps them alive, and like people are depending on them, and people still want to see him. Like that Stranger Things was huge. But anyways, I guess back to rock. Like the other question I had about this, because you mentioned the Queensryche connection. again, obviously Camelot's doing well, but I'm thinking of like you guys have toured with a lot of killer acts. Like I've seen Battle Beast with you dudes probably 3 times. That's a band where like I love them. I think they're great live, but will they be able to like really eke out a living out of this? So like, do you have like other bands like I don't know what have you like talked with like I don't know I don't want to name anybody because it's kind of rude, but like lower tier power metal bands being like please do this, please do this.
Yeah, no. I mean, of course, like leading up to the launch, like we've had all these different phases and stages of doing something like that, right? And at first, you also kind of want to test the waters before you do something like this, and you want to see are people actually interested in that, and would they do it? And now, so we got a lot of responses there, and people are thrilled about it. I mean, it's not just the thing is, even if you make just a little more, like everything adds. That's the thing. So let's say, because in the end also depends how many users we'll have, right? If this is going to determine how substantial the extra income is that people can make on our service in the end, obviously, right? But I think everybody, like if you can make 1,000, 2,000, something more every month, that's big money for a musician. Like this is like a completely different world. Like that's not like the regular corporate world where people are, collecting paychecks every month, and and so that's. I think everybody, like, very few people are at the stage where they don't need money, to put it that way, where they can say, "No, I don't need it." Like that's rare.
Sure.
But the money part, that's again, that's part of it. But it's also important because even if it doesn't enable you to go full-time professional, maybe it enables you if it gives you more time. Like if you can quit like your like a second or third job you have, suddenly you have more time to make music, right? I mean, it's just a good thing overall. And then of course it's the whole thing about the music and everything. You know what? I'll just share my screen I would just want to show you the uproot. Yeah.
Let's go. Do it.
Yeah, sec there. I think you have to give me permission to do it.
I will allow you.
There you go. All right. It's a little prettier on the phone.
Okay.
But anyways, this is
okay.
The whole idea here. So, and just to get started right away, right here. So you see these 4 genres here.
Yep.
The rock, jazz rock, and fusion, and others. So you can actually adjust them to your liking, right? So because I'm big into jazz as well, I put this as a third, but you can actually switch them and have something else there. And the regular setting we have is alternative as a third. Now, an alternative would be anything more modern, right? Mm-hmm. Like, but even like as even Spirit Box or something like that would be somewhere alternative, or
Mm-hmm.
Because the metal thing itself is kind of traditional in a way, but and this is also cool. Let's look at this for example. Let's go power metal. We make this distinction between European power metal, American. Super important because these are not. It's not the same, Neoclassical, progressive, symphonic, right? And we really detail there, and that's with every genre you can think of.
That was really neat. Sorry, did it just say the first power metal release was 1973? Like, what does that mean? Like,
well, yeah, okay. Some of that data. So this is still. Let's go back there to have a look at this, right?
I wasn't judging. I was just curious what it was.
Okay, this is definitely wrong, but I can tell you where it comes from. This is probably because some band has been around long enough, and for some reason, one of the records was tagged with one of the labels, and then our system automatically combines that to this is the first year. But this is super important. So when we get to this, let me show you. Let's go back to the beginning maybe. Let's pick Maiden, because Maiden is always like a great choice. Anyways, this is what the
that's some great delineation.
And we make it very album centric as well. Like it's not about individual tracks or playlists. It's really about albums for us. We do have like the top tracks thing, obviously, right?
Right.
But for us, it's more about albums. And here, if you look at this thing, Rockpedia.
That's so cool.
And this is where it gets important. Like the idea is that people can edit like all the information here, right? And also like everything here, and then there's going to be long form biographies and all these things that go to lineup.
What? Oh, wow. That is that is so cool.
Thanks. And this is the one I like best, the similar artists.
Sorry, dude, this is awesome. Wait. Can you like release this in the US tomorrow? I really want this now.
I wish we could. And the cool thing is then anything you can just, browse around. You go 1975 and then suddenly, it shows you the artists that were actually founded in that year, releases from that year. It's a little extra information. It's a little bit slow right now, but here we are, right? The number of releases we have, like the percentage of the genres, and that's like also we're doing this for every location, like even London itself.
Doom metal was the top for London. That's funny.
Doom metal for London. That's not too surprising actually. And so that's basically the main thing. And then we have that for all the rock genres as well.
Nice.
And so you see, like right now, let me just reload the page. Sometimes it's like the artwork should be there, so it's a little slow because we have actually more people on than we expected. It's actually
that's a good thing.
It's a good problem to have, but they should still show. Let me just try again. Yeah, here we are.
Oh, this is so cool.
And what we wanted to do is like give that feeling of browsing in a record shop, right? Like that's why it's so the artworks and everything is so album centric. Yeah. Okay, that's that part. Search, we're not reinventing the wheel here. That's like search, obviously. Playlists. We have a lot of pre-curated playlists.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. From your morning podcast to your afternoon playlist, State Farm knows you personalize your entire day, and that's why State Farm helps you personalize your insurance with the State Farm Personal Price Plan. It offers coverage options that help protect what you care about most at an affordable price just for you. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices vary by state. Options selected by customer. Availability and eligibility may vary.
But you got some cool stuff in here. Because I was like, when you think like when I go to Spotify, if you search like essential metal tracks, you're gonna get stuff that we're probably all tired of. I respect Metallica a lot, but I don't need to hear Enter Sandman again.
And you get a lot of stuff that's just completely wrong, like like completely wrong genres and everything. Yeah, absolutely. So you see, like we really,
nice.
Really. Right.
Oh, this is great. Wow, this is the product we need.
Thanks.
Oh,
so we also doing about topic like essential tracks we have here, the decades, right? 90s, 80s, 70s. Then some like guitar heroes. Obviously, like a lot of Yngwie in there. Yeah.
Oh man, George Winch's solo stuff, Steve. Yeah, you got some great stuff here. Wow. Were these curated by you? Were these fans made? Like
that was mainly our team. Like we. But wherever we felt like we really don't know too much about the genre, we took some help, some people helping us. But yeah, this interesting account settings. This is the direct artist support. Wait, this thing.
Okay.
So I showed it to the Queensrÿche guys. I put it to Queensrÿche now. So what happens? You can just look for any artist. Let's do Overkill for your shirt.
Oh, thank you.
And bam. So then you see also groove metal. That's debatable. That's like probably something would have to take.
Some of the 90s stuff was arguably.
Some of the 90s, exactly. And then, there you go. And then you get this message, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, and the charity fund. Okay.
Yeah, and we're trying to be as transparent as we can because there's like hopefully zero bullshit on there. Because the truth is, for Overkill to get that money, they still have to accept our contract, which is really just clicking like I accept the contract. But until they've done so, there's no way for us to send them the money and, until we have bank information. If they don't do that, it's going to go to a charity. It's going to be music related. But we'll, of course, try to reach out to them, like, and we'll let people know about that. I'm going to show you this one quickly. So we'll give people a chance to actually adjust the algorithm themselves.
This is so cool.
You see exactly where this is going, right? Like,
yeah. That third one is what I need to, like, again, like, I'm done with Enter Sandman, but if you want to put on, like, Trapped Under Ice once in a while, I'll take it.
Exactly. That's the whole idea behind that. Yeah.
Oh, man.
The rest, it's pretty much straight going forward. So, yeah, that's the app. And now I forgot to show you, but there's, like, seriously everything else in there, like Taylor Swift, Drake. All these people are actually in there. So if you want to listen, if you have somebody in the car with you that wants to listen to them, if you have your guilty pleasures, like modern metal fans are usually not as, what's the word? But you know what I mean. Like, they're not.
Yeah.
They tend to look left and right a little bit also musically, and that's fine. So they can do that. So, that's the app. And like I said, I hope we can roll out in the States as soon as possible. And like full transparency, there's still also the danger that we might never be able to do so if it doesn't go well enough in Europe. It looks very good right now, though. So, fingers crossed. Yeah.
Is there anything else on your plate before you get to a U.S. launch, or is that the next big thing?
No. That would be the next big. That's the logical next market for us as well.
Right.
Because we have Europe, we have the UK, like obviously US and Canada are the next two big ones. Yeah.
Sure. I got to get one flex in here before we wrap up, which is when I launched this. Of course, I'm in the US, so it didn't work. Yeah. But I think I got a message that I was the first person to try to stream a Majestica track. So I got that one.
Yeah. So when we during the trial phase, when we had test users, the IP lock was not in place. Actually, people theoretically could have used it from the States, right? But we actually were not supposed to let that happen. But that wasn't a problem because also our label partners in the States needed to check it. So there was like no clock in place. But now, unfortunately, it doesn't work. However, I should also say this: we are opening the whole Rockpedia thing. Like completely up so that anybody can just check that, actually edit the info and everything. Just the music is behind a paywall, so that's going to be possible from anywhere in the world, because we want to kind of of course there's Metal Archives, and Metal Archives is great, but Metal Archives is the only downside is it's a little bit narrow. Like they have their opinion on what's metal, and if you don't fit into that, then you're not happy. Right. And so we want to keep that a little more open. So,
Hell yeah.
So that's going to be open for anyone, and people can just see that, and then hopefully the music soon too. Yeah.
Hell yeah, man. Thank you so much for doing this. It was absolutely lovely talking to you.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me. And just one more thing to anybody from the States, supporting us. Like, we deeply, deeply appreciate this. And don't ever hesitate. If it takes too long for you, if you feel like, okay, this is taking too long, I want my money back, I have any kind of problem with this, you just reach out to us, right? Like, the idea was you pay for something and you get something in return. And if that's not happening, people just need to get back to us, and we'll always to solve this. But
Rob,
if they
the co-founder,
more patience, then hopefully within the year we should be there as well.
Hell yeah! Thank you so much, dude.
Thank you, man. Again, thanks for having me, and hopefully next time we can actually talk about the US launch. That would be great.
Yeah. Thank you so much, man. Have a great rest of your evening.
All right. You have a good time.
Yeah.
So, man. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, everyone. This is Tuck from Fit for a King, an off-road minivan. Every week I bring you fun interviews alongside your favorite metalcore entertainers with my new podcast, Get Tucked. Join me every Monday with bands like Counterparts, Crystal Lake, like Moths to Flames, and many more. We play unsigned and undiscovered bands, deep dive into each artist's history, and of course provide the greatest breakdowns in current metalcore. Tune in to Get Tucked every Monday, out now through Sound Talent Media.